if you don't have a representative to stand up for you, a lot of times you're silenced in the shadows.
What's shaking? Welcome back to All In with Rick Jordan. I am your host, Rick Jordan. Today, my guest, founder and managing attorney at Razavi Law Group, graduated at the top of his class at UCLA, and 31 years old, Ali Razavi successfully manages a multi-million-dollar civil litigation practice focusing on personal injury and employment law. This is going to be fun, and I want to welcome you to the show. Ali, what's up, my brother?
What's going on? Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I'm 31. I'm in Orange County, California. We practice civil litigation all throughout California, dipping into Nevada now and just trying to put our footprint as much as possible.
That's cool, man. I dig that. We're not going to, for everyone listening, we're not going to talk like boring stuff today. No, this is going to be real deal. You know, and I'm curious. I have questions. You know, it's good that I have a lot of clients in the cybersecurity realm that are PI firms. So I know a lot of the ins and outs and the intricacies, but I'm curious because to me, there seems like there's kind of like a shift. Now, correct me. I want to hear your take on this because there's like the old school way of doing PI, right? for personal injury. And now there's this new, amazing group of people like yourself that's kind of coming in and really using new tactics and almost taking more of a human approach, it seems to me. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. I agree with you. Back in, let's say, even before my time, let's say the 80s and 90s, it was very volume based. It still is, but most personal injury attorneys, they're doing very high volume. They're just a number gathering dust in a drawer, and they're just moving these files. And what I'd say the newer generation is doing, they're really getting to know the clients, the human factor, just like you nailed on the head. One part of the thing in a personal injury case is called general damages or pain and suffering. That's basically the inconvenience of going through a car accident, the frustration. And when I say car accident, that's just a main one, but any type of injury that's caused from a third party. But the human factor is having to go through this car accident. There's a dollar amount for that. And you really need to know your client to be able to explain that to the insurance company, to the defense attorneys. You have to properly be able to step into the client's shoes and really know them and how it's affected their life. And to talk about the human factor, that's what we do. We tell a story to the other side about who our client was and real people with real injuries, and it's really affected their lives. And it might affect their lives for years to come. And it's our job as the attorney to kind of explain that to the other side.
I love that, because you think of attorneys, and of course, it's like attorneys and dentists are the two types of people that most don't ever want to deal with in their life, right? There's that stigma that exists, but that human side that's starting to pop up. I'm really enjoying this because it's not necessarily even, well, what you said, it is completely that, I guess, to where you're trying to learn your clients more, but at the same time, it shows a more human side of you, and paints an attorney in a completely different light.
Absolutely. I'm sure you've heard of the term ambulance chaser and things like that.
Dude. Yeah.
When I was going to law school, that was the last thing I want to do was personal injury. I just, you've been brainwashed throughout the years. This is not what you want to do as a lawyer. But it truly is rewarding. There's a right way to do things, obviously. And if you step into their shoes and you represent, the voiceless, and you help the little guy against a big corporation, at the end of it, I think it's the most rewarding thing. I can't imagine doing anything else at this point. And personal injury was like the bottom of my totem pole when I first started.
Well, that was one of my questions, dude. It's like out of all the areas of law, right? And you're saying, everyone stays away from it. How did you end up settling on personal injury?
I think personal injury ended up finding me because I was trying to run away from it, to be honest. I always thought I was going to do something like very highbrow corporate litigation or intellectual property. And then you realize when you go out on your own, you're not going to find, a Fortune 500 company every day that's going to retain you as a brand new attorney.
Oh, come on. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, people are looking for your everyday person is generally looking for an attorney to help them deal with insurance claims, especially in California. So those types of cases started coming to me early on. And, I kind of casted a wide net. I was that general practitioner that did everything. And that didn't really work out because nobody wants nowadays, because it's so specialized, nobody wants a jack of all trades, right? You want to be a master of something because everyone's an expert in some type of sector now. So the days of being a general practitioner of doing every type of law, let's say wills and trusts, criminal defense, personal injury, immigration, you're paying someone to represent you. And if they don't know this cold and the attorney on the other side knows it better than you, well, guess what? You just lost the case for your client. Open yourself up to malpractice too. There's so much more law now that it really needs to be compartmentalized. So when I did cast that net, car accidents started coming my way, and I did have some experience during law school working at some pretty notable and big personal injury law firms. So I did get to experience that, and I knew what I was doing at least. But that was the type of business that was available to me when I first started on my own.
Yeah, so it just kind of found you then, exactly what you were saying. That just started coming across your plate. That's awesome. What were the first couple of cases like? For you, how did that?
Yeah,
play
good
out?
question.
Were you a little shaky?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, imagine I'm 31 now, so I started my practice immediately out of. I mean, once I became an attorney, I basically started my practice. So I was about 26 years old. I put up a little desk in my bedroom at my parents' house, and I had a PO box and I had a Google Voice number. And no one's going to be knocking on an attorney's door that just started, right? He's been an attorney for 2.5 hours. So you're
Dude,
looking
this
for
is important for
contract
everyone to
work.
hear, though, right? Because a lot of people want to get into law because they're thinking big money, but it's the same thing. It's like you always start at the bottom, or even if you start in a firm, you start as a clerk, right? And then you might move into a paralegal, and then you finally become an attorney, an associate attorney. Then you might become a partner. If you go, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess there's a reason for that. There's so much law to learn. To go out there without having that type of knowledge, I mean, you're really exposing yourself, I guess, to malpractice and other things. So you have to tread with caution. But the first couple months, I was doing contract work for other attorneys. So the attorneys that weren't big enough to hire another lawyer, but they had overflow work, I was doing hourly work for them. I would show up to court for the lawyers that couldn't make it to court. I'd do appearance work for them. So there's ways to make money as a lawyer. And somebody in law school once told me this, an attorney told me this, and it kind of stuck with me for the rest of my career so far. They said having a law license is a license to print money if you do it properly. You'll never be out of work completely with a law license if you kind of start thinking outside the box. There's things you can do because you're an officer of the court at the end of the day. So at the minimum, if you have a pulse and you show up to court on behalf of another lawyer, you're going to get paid for that. So that was my first couple months until those car accidents that I mentioned, until they started picking up. And it was early on that this case that was all over the news. It was a big car accident. It's Christmas Eve. A girl gets rear-ended. 26-year-old girl gets rear-ended, and she ends up in a coma. She ends up contacting the biggest law firm in our area. I won't name names because some people might disagree with my assessment, but biggest law firm. And you know what? That law firm happened to do a different type of law. But my friend's fiance happened to take the phone call at that law firm. She was a partner at that law firm. And she said, hey, you know what? We don't do these cases. Like, I know it's a very big case. Maybe you should call Razavi Law Group. And I remember getting that call 2 months into being an attorney, like, just, is this really on my plate right now? And got the client retained us. And I want to say within maybe 30 days, we resolved that case, for 6 figures.
Oh, wow. That's speedy.
Super.
Good
And
God.
that was the first time, and, beyond the money, it gave me confidence. I was like, you know what? This case was all over the news, and, I got the policy limits, and, the case was basically done for me. It was handed to me at that point, but it gave me the confidence to replicate that and do more of it, because I think as a new attorney, you're just afraid the whole time. You're very afraid to do anything. So that was kind of the beginning when I first started, and gave me a little bit of seed money to start marketing and get an office and things like that.
That's awesome, man. So it's cool because you're a big self-starter, I can see with this too. And that's it's the same in any industry, that I've talked about, almost even like a musician, right? It's like there's nobody out there really that's going to just like open up the floodgates and welcome you into their kingdom. you know, like all of a sudden you have your law degree, you pass the bar, then nobody's like waiting for you to arrive, you still got to hustle. It's like when you do that, now it's actually like your starting line is at that point, so that was 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's 4.5 years. Yeah, coming on 5 years. And you're right, getting the law license was a ticket to play now.
Yeah.
Like that was my entry.
Right on. There wasn't like trumpets or anything like that, dude. It was just, it wasn't like a job fair where you could walk in and there's like a shortage of attorneys for big firms or anything like that. That's the case in every industry, though. You always have a starting point, and the starting point is usually after you gain a lot of the knowledge. And then you can actually go out and actually hustle for the first time, which is great.
Absolutely. And kind of how I looked at it is, I was 26, and I'm sure you're close to 26. But you remember when it was like to be 26? You're hungry, right? You're hungry, and these are potentially the best years of your life to work, right? And are you gonna work for someone else, or are you gonna put those hours and sweat equity for yourself and try to build something for the long term? And that's kind of what I was thinking, because you could the traditional, conventional way, conservative way, work at a law firm, and what you mentioned. Junior associate, then become an associate, then become a senior associate, then maybe one day become a partner. But, next thing you know, 10, 15 years of your life is gone. And that's when you want to start a law firm. You've lost a lot of time at that point.
Yeah,
you've learned a lot, but you've lost a lot of time.
For sure. And there's different fits for different people too. That may be the path for someone to take, and that's okay. Because people feel like they fit in certain different things. I was never that fit in kind of person. It's like I love building the teams and have collaborative forms of styles of leadership. And that was great. But it was always, I never really wanted to climb that ladder. I feel you. That's awesome from a law perspective. You just went on and do it. So side note, right? How do you feel about Better Call Saul? I'm just throwing it out there.
Better Call Saul. I like it.
How accurate is it?
Definitely in the criminal defense sector, it's common. It's common to have that guy, and that's the type of attorney maybe I'd want to in that sector, right? You want that guy that is going to roll up his sleeves and be there for the good and the bad. Not to say that other attorneys shouldn't, but I think Better Call Saul was appropriate for what he does, if you were to ask me.
No doubt. Yeah. But in that spinoff series too, it's exactly what we're talking about right now, is that he had to start off in that. And it's funny because you say that, like the PI just kind of fell in your lap. It was like elder law for him just kind of fell in his lap. And it was just something that happened. He thought he started with contract work and reviewing all this other stuff too. It's cool because I think it's an important point that you're making, and that what you start doing right now, it could be more broad, and you might be able to figure out exactly what you like and don't like along the way. And then you're able to just kind of hone in on something over time. That's huge for an entrepreneur, man.
Absolutely. And
it's okay to not have it all figured out, right?
And yeah, like I'm definitely still learning. But I remember when I first cast that big wide net of, hey, I do all these types of laws. There's certain practitioners that, hey, you probably shouldn't do that. You probably shouldn't say that. Nobody wants, the jack of all trades. And that was good advice. But I think what you just mentioned, if I didn't cast that wide net, I don't even know what I liked. It was too early on to know what I would have liked or what I was good at, for example.
For sure. Let's talk about last year, because we're talking about the hustle, right? How did the pandemic affect your practice?
The pandemic affected our practice tremendously. As I mentioned, I handle a lot of car accidents, car accidents, slip and falls, dog bites, but our bread and butter is car accidents. So many vehicles coming, especially in Southern California, coming and going. When a quarantine happens, no one's driving anymore, right? So, and I'll take it a step back. We have basically two types of personal injury lawyers. You have the lawyers they're called pre-litigation lawyers, where they just settle cases all day, which nothing wrong with that. And then you have the litigation attorneys that, go to court and, hit the home runs in front of a jury. Nothing wrong with that. And then you have kind of the hybrid that does a little bit of both. We were, prior to the pandemic, we're predominantly a pre-litigation law firm. We're getting high resolutions, and it just made sense not to file a lawsuit. We would file a lawsuit if need be, but we're resolving majority of our cases with that. Now, when a pandemic hits and a quarantine happens, you have less people driving. So those brand new, fresh cases, there's less of them. And then the court cases, the trial attorneys, there's no trial because courts are closed. So I kind of realized that middle part, that middle hybrid of doing pre-litigation and litigation, you kind of have to morph into that, because the insurance companies knew that the ones that weren't filing a lawsuit, that didn't have the infrastructure to go to court, you're going to get a very low offer right now because there is no court.
Yeah.
And the ones that do, what was that?
Oh, I was just agreeing with you. You're dead on. Yeah.
Yeah. And the ones that go to court, there is no court. So they're kind of high and dry too. But there is litigation. There is filing a lawsuit, doing discovery, doing that middle ground where you can get better value than the pre-litigation, but you don't necessarily have to go all the way to court. So when the pandemic happened, two things happened. A lot of personal injury attorneys stopped marketing. They decided to get rid of their staff. They kept it very close knit and, kept their money close to their chest because they didn't know what tomorrow was going to look like. What I did was a little bit different. Because nobody was marketing, I doubled down on marketing because marketing was a lot cheaper too. I put it all on black. I said, if it hits, it hits. And if it doesn't, I'm in a pandemic, I have an excuse. So double down on marketing. And then I started hiring trial attorneys, and I hired more paralegals to do the litigation aspect. And I want to say our firm probably grew twice as big this last year, just by making those simple adjustments.
That's awesome, man. I saw this in a lot of industries too, there was a lot of retreat, and of course it was fear at the beginning, but that's the same thing I did, dude. And I doubled my revenue too in cybersecurity just because doubled down on everything. I hired more people. It was great, and we went after some different types of revenue streams, exactly what you're talking about, how you morphed into that hybrid from just being pre-litigation. That's incredible. You saw the opportunity, dude. Well done. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. And on that note, and don't quote me on this, but I did hear that the Chinese character for chaos is two characters. It's the character for opportunity and the character for crisis. So it's and I take that back. So it's crisis and opportunity. So take that back. The Chinese character for crisis is opportunity and chaos. So in every crisis, there is opportunity and there is chaos, right? It just depends on how you want to look at it. And that's why I decided to double down and do kind of what everyone wasn't doing. Because when you follow the masses, you're just following the masses at the end of the day.
Yeah, no doubts. There was I heard a lot of that going into it too. And I saw it as an opportunity as well. And there was a lot of naysayers and a lot of critics that came about. I'll call them haters, man, because they're like, oh, the pandemic's such a horrible thing. How can you say that this is just a world of opportunity right now? And aren't you taking advantage of the state of people that they're in? And I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, my competitors are freaking running away with their tail between their legs. So am I not doing everyone a service by doubling down because now there's this gap that I'm able to fill? That's the opportunity, is because everybody else is scared and running away. I can step and be like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here. Can I help you?
Yeah, that's exactly. Scared money doesn't make money.
Oh, that's beautiful. Scared money doesn't make money. Oh my gosh. That's going in our show notes for sure, man. Yes. What was the most interesting case that you've really ever dealt with so far? Because you've been practicing, 5 years now? About 5 years?
Yeah. 5 years. There's a few cases, but I think
one you'll remember forever.
One that really came to mind for me was it was about 2 years ago, and this transient, person, for lack of better words, they were homeless, and I was at a Starbucks, and I usually wear a suit every day, even if I'm not going to court, I'll wear a suit. So, go to Starbucks, get a coffee, and this transient comes up to me and he says, "Hey, are you a lawyer?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a lawyer." He's like, "Do you think you can help me out?" And I'm in line at Starbucks, and he hands me this tattered. I mean, he's probably had it in his back pocket for 8 months. Police report. And a car had hit him and he had broken multiple bones, and nobody would take him seriously because he was homeless. And it was the craziest thing to me that this gentleman walked up to me asking if I was a lawyer of all things. And then seeing this police report and seeing how he kind of was treated this last year. Because you have to imagine, I mean, if you're homeless and you don't have health insurance, you're walking on broken bones outside in the cold for an entire year. No real medical care, nothing. And so I said, you know what? It looks like something there. If you want, the guy doesn't have a phone, doesn't have anything. He's homeless. I said, meet me here tomorrow at the same time, and I'll bring you some documents. And so the next day he showed up, same time, same place, and I signed him up, and we represented him. We fought the insurance company. And what's crazy is the police report had even put him at fault. Homeless pedestrian that gets hit by a car, the police report puts him at fault. Yeah, you just, our slogan is let your voice be heard, because I mean, if you don't have a representative to stand up for you, a lot of times you're silenced in the shadows. And so taking that case on and fighting the other side, and then we ended up obtaining, the top dollar policy. A policy limit is the maximum an insurance can pay. So we ended up getting the maximum insurance, and we got him that. And he wrote me a note that basically said, thanks to you guys, I'm able to buy a home and I'm no longer homeless. And it was one of the most touching stories, and one of the cases that we've helped out someone's life so much from, rags to riches. It's always going to be something that I remember about. It kind of keeps me going when I do this, that there are people out there that my line of work really helps them and changes their lives, and they just need someone to believe in them.
Dude, there's so much to pull from that story too. It's, he had tragedy that was in his life, but yet it's like all things work together for the greater good in that. And something I see you in this story too, because you said that you wore a suit into Starbucks, and you always wear a suit, which means that it's like your uniform, right? You're always ready to play wherever you go. And because there's a certain, let's be straight up, right? There's a certain stance that a confident attorney can have. But when you have all those things working together, the stance, the way you talk, and then also the way that you dress, your uniform, you can be picked out of a crowd. And in that moment, he's able to walk up and be like, hey, here's someone that can help. So if you want to call it divine appointment or whatever else, it doesn't matter. But the fact is that both of you were like in that place at that time and like ready for each other, because you were ready. You were ready for each other just because you were ready.
Absolutely.
That's so important, man, because it's what I had something said about me a little. It was I was on stage at an event just a couple of weeks ago, a live event, not in California because it's California, it was in Florida. When I walk in, it's like, dude, it's like you always look the same, but you're wearing different clothes. It's like, yeah, it's an image. I'm always dressed to play. It's strategic in that realm. And so many people can miss that boat too. I'm even talking on weekends, dude. It's always the same thing. I'm sure you're not wearing suits on a weekend, but still there's an aura that's about you because of what you do. And that's how you always have to show up. You were ready because you both were ready.
I love that. Yeah, we were both ready. And I'm with you on that. I make that a big deal in my law firm, dress how you want to be addressed. A lot of times we're not going to court, we're just on the phones, and you just feel more confident. I mean, that conversation is just going to go better when you feel good about yourself. I think the way that you dress is very important. Not even from, a shallow standpoint. It makes you feel better about yourself. I think it makes you more confident, and then it shows up in your work product.
For sure, brother. I mean, even today, right? A lot of times I do the podcast in just a t-shirt because it's what I do on the show. But then I'm like, oh yeah, you're an attorney. And then I see your suit. I'm like, I'm gonna throw my jacket on, because I want to match the energy. That's the same thing. So I want to be ready for you. And that's why I'm here. And I've got my jacket on too. It's how it rolls. So dude, I'm going to switch gears just for a quick second on this, because I'm in tech, right? I'm in cybersecurity. And how is tech playing a role in what you're doing right now, especially growing, dude? Because I mean, it's great that you doubled your size last year, but that's got to come with its pain points too. And how are you implementing tech to help you with that?
Yeah, so tech's playing a big part. First and foremost, our law firm is completely paperless. Everything's paperless. Like, you're not going to find, I mean, maybe some documents downstairs with the trial attorneys, but for the most part, everything's electronic. Right when we get our mail, it gets scanned and then it gets uploaded into the cloud. We use Dropbox. We have a case management software. So it's very modern in the sense that you're not going to find files everywhere, even though we have, hundreds of clients or whatnot. So things are paperless, things are on the cloud. We have a case management software to kind of keep track of everything. And any attorney can physically probably pick up any file if a client calls and can follow up with the client on where they left off. So it's pretty seamless in that sense. I don't think prior law firms with the paper files and things like that, they're able to just pick up and go with someone or speak to a defense attorney on a matter. Tech plays there. Social media, as far as marketing goes, I have my own Instagram. The law firm has its own Instagram, and people are on social media a lot. So as far as getting clients, it used to be just radio and billboards, right? That was radio, billboards, and TV. But now you get to be in front of thousands of audience by being on social media. So tech definitely plays a role there. And then what's recent that I'm learning about too is a tedious part about what we do is, the discovery phase. The other side is going to ask you just thousands of questions, and you have to, type up on a Word document their question, your answer. Now there's, and I'm learning about this. Now there's tech companies that will give you a shell. You'll give them the discovery, and then they'll give you everything typed up, and then you just fill in the answers that the client needs to say. So tech's changing. I mean, a lot of things. And then obviously with the pandemic happening, we're doing a lot on Zoom. We're taking depositions on Zoom. We're doing mediations on Zoom. We're doing hearings. A lot of court call going on now. So it's interesting to see what you can do virtual now.
Oh yeah, it saves a lot of that time running to and from court for sure, dude. Right on. Or even bringing clients in, because it's the days of, sitting, waiting in the lobby, on the comfy couch for your attorney to be ready. Now you can actually schedule and stay on time with things too. I would assume it's like, okay, how many Zoom calls do I have today? All right, I just have to keep my pace.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic experience. I love that. Are you into using any sort of AI yet, even for the discovery process?
Yeah, that would be the next step. What I just mentioned. I think I'm open to it. The one thing, and there's a lot of AI also for in personal injury. We review medical records, so you have AI that reviews medical records. But I think until AI can show up to court and represent someone in trial, I don't know how. It's helpful, but I don't think it's going to take over what we're doing. Because there's so much, the human factor, for example. I don't know how much AI can pick up about that to ultimately make this entire process hands-free and seamless. It's tough to say, but I'm definitely open to it. But I think there has to be some type of boundary with the AI, because there's certain things for today that you can't replicate an attorney still.
For sure, no doubt, especially analyzing that data, like you said, from the human aspect. There's stuff that I'm sure there's certain, pre-conclusions that AI could come to in a specific case, but it's always going to need that review. Dude, it's the same in cyber, for real. And that is like legit the tech space. But my emphasis is like there's still a human side to this. What's the motive? Because if we know the motive behind the breach, behind the hackers, then we can actually determine what the end game is for them and what type of data they might be going after. And then we can stop it in its tracks because we're looking at it from the human side. Because a hacktivist or, a cyber criminal is going to have a different motivation than a nation state. It's like China or Russia or something like that. There's going to be different end games for both of those, and that determines the type of data that they're going after. There's still that human side to it. Being in this space with car accidents, what do you see now? Because I know this is big in California too. What do you see now when it comes to self-driving cars? And those types of things. Teslas. Even my BMW has that, a new BMW I had a Cadillac a few years ago. The reason I got the Cadillac was for its self-driving on the highway. I could completely take my hands off everything, and dude, that stuff looks at your retinas or your pupils. It has an infrared camera in the GM vehicles to make sure you're paying attention. It's pretty sick.
Wow.
And I've been in cars now in Vegas to where it's completely automated, lane changes and everything else. That's the next level of autonomy for vehicles going from casino to casino. How do you see this playing into your law practice?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest fear. I mean, that's the kryptonite to any personal injury firm, right? It's a big fear. It's the inevitable. But I don't think, from the research that I've done, I don't think it's going to be self-autonomous anytime soon. There's issues still. I mean, there's times when I'm driving and I don't know the fork in the road. I don't know which direction to go. There's things like that, a self-driving car, they're going to make mistakes. And that's a lot of these car accidents that are happening with the automated vehicles. It's confusing. The roadway is confusing. And is it worth losing a life over trying to, it's technology. I mean, you have to do a cost benefit analysis. How many lives are we going to lose before this thing becomes self-autonomous? I think it's definitely something that's going to happen. But with that, right, with this taking place, there's going to be a lot of products defect cases, right? The vehicle is going to be defective. There's that type of law that's going to open up too.
Yeah. And at that point, who do you end up suing?
Exactly.
Was it the driver? Well, what if the driver wasn't even touching the wheel and the vehicle was engaged in autonomous? I mean, yeah, that's an interesting conundrum. Yeah.
Two ways to look at it: more pockets or less pockets. I don't know.
Right on. Yeah, we'll just call him Bob. Bob was driving today. That's what we're going to call him. Who's Bob? well, he's the vehicle. Yeah, there you go. Oh man, let's end with this, man. Because what advice do you have for someone who's looking for a PI attorney?
Okay. What I would truly look for is, I would advise them to do their due diligence on the law firms, right? Even if they get recommendations from friends and family, do their due diligence. Read the reviews, read the testimonials, watch the testimonials. You just want to make sure that the law firm, a lawyer isn't like a Rolex, right? You're not going to go to 5 different Rolex stores, get the same exact Rolex for a cheaper price. You're kind of going to get what you pay for. So you want to see, what is the relationship between most of their clients and the law firm, right? Assuming that the reviews are real. And then what I'd also want to know is, do they practice personal injury, or are they a family law attorney that does car accidents, 2 car accidents a year, right? It's very important. It's very specialized. And the insurance companies, they recognize the law firms that are doing this because they see the names all the time. So it's a bit of credibility that you have already with the insurance companies, as opposed to, I just picked up my first car accident. If you're a brand new, if you're an attorney that's doing personal injury for the first time, it's the same as you being a person doing personal injury for the first time. And the insurance company is not going to put too much credence because you don't know what to ask for. You don't know what to demand. You don't know what type of coverages there are. So you're really leaving money on the table. So I'd really tell them to look at the customer reviews, make sure that they do personal injury. And really that's the 2 biggest things in my opinion.
That's awesome, man. Everyone can find you at RazaviLawGroup.com, RAZAVI lawgroup.com. Dude, you said you're on Instagram. Where can everyone find you on social?
You can find me at my personal page is it's from Aladdin, but it's Prince Ali.
Nice.
That's PRINZ_Ali ALI. Or you can find us at our law firm. It's Razavi Law Group.
Very cool. Ali, thanks for being on today, my man. I had a good convo with you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
What's shaking? Thank you for joining me on the All In Podcast. Click the subscribe button and smash that bell for notifications. Text me, 312-535-8520. Follow me on social media at Mr. Rick Jordan. See you next episode. I am Rick Jordan, and I approve this message.